get myself right up on out of here. I feel like a disgrace, I'm not really what I appear. I go home to my girl and I make nicey nice. The fact that she don't know that I just put someone on. I don't like being here. I constantly live in fear. Could be gone at any time. When you live a life of crime, you have to face the music and do the time.
Hello and welcome everyone to Mayhemtainment. I am your host JD, and I'm being joined by my executive producer Mizpah and by Mike D from Wrestling from the 313.
What up, though?
This is not a wrestling episode. We are going to be talking about NFL today. We're going to try and get Mike D in on a lot of our NFL episodes this season. I have an appliance in the background that wants to get in on the show, if you heard that. So we have that as well. Mizpah, Mike D. Mike D, you were on the season finale last season. We didn't get to have you on the premiere, but, you know, it's nice to have you back so soon again already.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to be back.
And Mizpah, as usual, I will tell my guests to not listen to anything you say when it comes to football because you're a Cowboys fan.
Yeah.
Make sure you visit our storefront, bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z at the end of it. I am not wearing a JDEDESIGNz shirt today. I'm wearing our sister show, the Boiling Point Podcast. Check them out. That's for politics, world news, faith, religion, that type of stuff. I do have my new shirts coming, and so hopefully they'll transition into some sales. So get yourself some of the new logo on some of our apparel. Mike D, Wrestling from the 313. Make sure you check him out. He's got YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, all that. And he does have his own storefront. What is your storefront, though? I don't know your storefront yet.
The address is wrestlingfromthe313shop.com.
Oh, he's got his own unique address because he's cool like that.
So I think one of the segments here should be the mental delusional state of Eagles fans.
We're going to certainly get into Eagles fans, and except that we're undefeated. So mental delusional state is definitely not where we're at right now. We're undefeated, along with the 49ers. But let's start with the Eagles since you brought it up. The Eagles are they're playing really good. You know, ever since the Doug Peterson as the head coach, and we brought Nick Sirianni in, and the Carson Wentz, Jalen Hurts thing, I've been unsure about what the Eagles are doing. But I'm pretty happy with how they're looking and what they've been doing right now.
I think we'll have to see how the rest of the season plays out here. I think they just got a little bit lucky so far with their schedule.
Lucky? You think luck is what it is? I don't think luck. I think they've been playing pretty good. Now the last game it was a close game. But they were, and that's what it is, though. And in the NFL, if you can find ways to pull out those victories, whether it's luck or whether it's just good play calling or good play execution, that's what you need to be able to make it in the NFL. It's those close games that are really going to matter.
Now, on a serious note, I think they are playing really well. I think they're functioning as a team, and I think that's something that several teams aren't doing very well this year, is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah. Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just about to, I agree with what Mizpah said about the Eagles just playing real well. They kind of off that, they lost in the Super Bowl last year, so they kind of hungry, you know what I'm saying? And they got some good pieces. They got one of our players from the Detroit Lions, and he's doing pretty well. And I think that they're going to be one of the teams in the NFC Championship, possibly go to the Super Bowl. I got 3 teams right now that I think could be in the NFC Championship.
Who is that?
I got San Francisco, the Eagles, and I'm leaning towards the Lions.
The Lions, listen, the Eagles and the Niners are both undefeated. And and they're just, I think both teams, the Niners and the Eagles, are crushing it. They're even when they don't have the best games, they're figuring out how to get it done, and that's what you need to do. So I think those two teams are going to be extremely tough to beat. I don't expect them to go undefeated. You know what I mean? I don't think that they're, perfect. I don't think they'll go undefeated, either team, the Niners or the Eagles. I expect they'll at least have one or two losses. I expect one of them will have one loss, the other one will have two. That's kind of what I'm suspecting. And I expect the Eagles and the Niners to get the bye. But the Lions, they are looking like I haven't ever seen them. Okay. I've been watching football for a long time. Okay. And Barry Sanders was the last, when they had Barry Sanders was the last time they were looking good, good enough to actually make us, get into the playoffs and maybe potentially make a Super Bowl run. They never had enough of the, the right personnel around when they had Barry Sanders. But right now they're killing it too, man. I mean, they're fighting. I mean, none of their wins have been easy. The Lions have had to fight for every win that they've got this season, but they're doing it. They're getting the victories.
Look, y'all just don't know. Me being a Detroit native and been watching the Lions since I was a teenager. Like, yes, everything that you were saying is right. They never had the right personnel around Barry Sanders. And even when they had Matt Millen and that whole debacle there and just the drafting that they did, it was just horrible. And I think a lot, too, that the so-called curse, I don't know if y'all heard about the curse that the Lions had. They had traded Bobby Lane when his dad had passed or something like that. And when the newspaper, a writer had asked him about being traded, he said the Lions would never win a Super Bowl in 50 years. So that's how that whole streak started. Yeah.
I didn't know
but
that.
As a Lions fan, I could definitely say watching them in these past couple of years, even though it's still early, it's still good to see them play the way they play. Because a game like Carolina, they would have had the lead at halftime. The second half, Bryce Young would have had probably a career game and won that game for him. That would have been the old Lions. This new Lions, I love it. Like, the defense is on is top of par. The offense is good. And they put up 40 without St. Brown. Gibbs didn't play. So they got their GM has been doing a very good job as far as drafting and bringing the pieces in.
Yeah, and they just had some injuries this week, and they were still managed to pull out their victory. When they made the trade with the Rams, I was like, oh my goodness, they're going to kill another quarterback. It seems like anytime the Lions get a good quarterback, it seems like that's where they go to die, because the Lions never seem to have an offensive line to protect new guys, and yet for a young quarterback who's always on the run, who has to constantly be getting hit, it really holds back their progression and stuff early in their career. But now, they got everything in place right now, and they are playing really good. Yeah, really good football. Yeah. I'm really impressed.
I would say, and not to take away from, to switch the sport, but that's kind of like what our basketball, the Pistons, are doing. We got a new GM, and Detroit is really not a major free agent city. So it's like these new GMs that we have, they're building our teams through the draft, and they've been making some good draft picks. And I see a very good future for our city as far as Detroit sports.
Yeah, that's important. It is important to draft well and to be planning ahead. And not just in football, but in baseball, hockey, anything. You got to have a good program to have new players coming in.
And I'm gonna say one more thing: if the Lions ever make the Super Bowl, go to the Super Bowl and win it, that will be the biggest thing in the state of Michigan. We've seen the Red Wings win. We've seen all our sports teams win. We even seen the Detroit Shock win. We've never seen the Lions win. I think this state would go crazy. I think it would be up there with the Cubs and the Red Sox breaking their curses.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I think if the Lions win, that's what I was actually going to make that reference earlier, and then I got sidetracked because we kind of got onto something else there. But I was going to say, yeah, like listen, if the Red Sox can break the curse of the Bambino, the Lions can certainly break the curse as well, and they're looking good. I don't know if they're going to do it this year, but I expect them to make a playoff run and get deep into the playoffs.
Depending on how the seeding goes, I could see them sneaking in the conference championship to play either San Francisco or Philly. It just depends on how the seeding goes.
Yeah, because they'll have to face one of them likely on the way to the championship too. So yeah. And the Lions are looking good, but I don't know if they're going to knock off both the Niners and the Eagles.
Nah. One of them maybe, but both of them, nah.
Mizpah, what do you think?
I think stranger things have happened.
That is true.
Yeah,
in the NFL.
It's true. Yeah.
For example, the Cowboys started off this season very, very well, and then what happened this weekend?
They didn't show up to play.
Is that what happened? Because they kind of looked like they went back to the Cowboys last year, where they got all these great players, but nobody working together, nobody know what was going on. That's kind of what it looked like to me.
Well, of late, if you look, that kind of seems to be the Cowboys' MO. They start the season out looking fantastic and amazing, like they're going to be, a Super Bowl team, and then all of a sudden they just fall on their face, and then they're playing catch up, and then they can't get it together. They can't gel as a team. Like it seems like a team full of independent players. Like. There's no real cohesiveness there. But again, I think there's a lot of great talent there.
No, they have the talent.
But the management and ownership of the team is where the real problem lies.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I'm pretty sure we've had that conversation before.
Yes, probably, and on Mayhem, as I'm sure we've had it. So yeah.
And I'm sure I'll probably mention it again at some point.
And I was telling Mizpah before we started the show, the problem with the Cowboys is not the players, is Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
And I told him Jerry Jones is the Vince McMahon of the NFL. As long as he's alive, he's not giving up control of that team. He's not going to do it. And
you're so right. You're so right.
I couldn't agree with you more.
No, really, he's absolutely the Vince McMahon of the NFL. Yeah, he is. I always compared John Madden to being the Jim Ross of the NFL as well. Although Jim Ross is a lot better now with he's in AEW. Like, I like him as an announcer in AEW. Without Vince McMahon screaming in his ear, he's actually a good announcer.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. He is, and I think you're also right. I don't think he even if it comes out and they're like, "Oh, Jerry Jones is retiring and his son-in-law is taking over," I'm gonna be like, "Yeah, right."
Yeah,
I'm not buying that. I'm not buying that for a second.
He's like those owners like Steinbrenner, because if Steinbrenner was still alive, I think he'd still be an owner of the Yankees. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the same thing with Al Davis with the Raiders.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, the Raiders at least have a new home now in Las Vegas. They're going to be there probably for a while, and they're looking not terrible as well.
Yeah, it seemed like with the Raiders, it don't seem like they're real confident in Jimmy Garoppolo, and Devontae Adams don't look like he's too happy either. I've been seeing little articles and stuff online about, if he does ask for a trade, where he should go. One of those teams were the Lions. I don't think the Lions would do it just because of his salary, but
yeah,
the Raiders are supposed to be one of those teams that are always in it, the way like Baltimore is,
yeah,
the way Pittsburgh is,
Hard Knocks football. Yeah, Hard Knocks football, man. The gritty, the defense. When you have a defense, I'm one of those believers. I am a student of the late great Jim Johnson, who was the Eagles defensive coordinator for many, many years. And I am a firm believer that offense wins games, yes, but it's defense that wins you championships. Yeah. And if you got a defense that you can rely on, and then you're going to be in the talk, or at least to get into the playoffs every single year, like the Ravens, like the Steelers, and they get there because of their defense. They get there because of their defense. Now the Ravens this year, they got a team. So they're clicking on offense and defense. But the Steelers, they got it done this week, but they need some more work on offense. I think the Steelers do.
Yeah, they do seem to be lacking in the offense department. They have some talent, and I think they have a couple of players that will become really good with a little bit of work.
Is it time for Mike Tomlin to go in Pittsburgh?
That could be something to think about.
Yeah,
What do you think, Mike D?
You know what? It was funny because I was thinking that last year when they were kind of struggling, and people were saying that the owner wouldn't do it because he's loyal to him. And that's understandable, but it's like at the same time, where is Pittsburgh going? Like, I like Kenny Pickett. I think that he's a nice quarterback for them, especially after Ben Roethlisberger retiring. But it's just one of them things, like, it's only so far you're going to go with Mike Tomlin. You know what I'm saying? And, like, what was the last Super Bowl they won, like, nearly 10 years ago or something like that?
Yeah. And he keeps him. He's got a winning record. You know what I mean? He keeps him in the talk every year. You know, he's not a bad head coach, but there does come a time. It was like Andy Reid. I mean, Andy Reid's winning so many championships now with KC, but he couldn't get it done in Philly. And I think it's just one of those things that you need. You can be a great coach or a great player and not be in the right place or with the right team. That it's very possible. And I don't know that Mike Tomlin necessarily needs to be done coaching, but I think maybe it might be time for Pittsburgh to start thinking about the future in an overall sense, not just the next quarterback or the next wide receiver or the next player or whatever. I think it might be time as an organization to start thinking about the future.
Well, and if you want to get into that thought train there, it might be time for Belichick to hang up his hat and move on too.
In New England.
Because there's a lot of similarities there.
I agree. I mean, Mac Jones looks like a decent quarterback. Is he going to be the quarterback of the future? I don't know that. But, yeah, it might be time for New England to start, thinking about the future too, maybe. I think this is the second year without Brady now? This is the second year with Mac Jones, or is it the third?
I want to say third.
I think the third.
Okay, so third. This is the third season. If they can't make a good playoff run, you know what I mean? At least get to the divisional rounds in this one, then maybe it's time to start looking at things and thinking about things. But as long as they're improving every year, because when you got a new quarterback, it's going to take some time with a new quarterback and a new head coach. Just like I think what Mike D was saying in Pittsburgh. Mike Tomlin, he's not a bad coach. He's just got a new quarterback. He's trying to work a new system. So I don't know that it's time for Mike Tomlin to go, but I think it's time that maybe the organization start thinking about the future as a whole. And I do think New England might need to be the same way. If Belichick doesn't get them to the divisional round this year, and I think the same with the Steelers, if they can't make it to the divisional or conference round this year, I think then, it might be time to start thinking about things.
See, this is a hard one for me because with Belichick, I kind of and I'm using my other sports comparisons. I'm gonna compare Belichick to Greg Popovich in the NBA. A lot of people trying to say, can Belichick win? Is it fair to say that Belichick can't win without Brady? If we gonna say that, do we say that Popovich can't win without Duncan? You know what I'm saying? I think with Mac Jones, you got to give him some time. Like, the one thing I don't like about the NFL was that if a quarterback don't succeed in 2-3 years, then it's time to let him go. And you going back to square one. You get another high pick, draft another quarterback that does the same thing that the quarterback you just drafted did. So I think they just got to give him some time. Like, Belichick may have to come up with a new offense or run some type of different offense. But I look at Belichick as like Greg Popovich, the Greg Popovich of the NFL. And the way Popovich kind of got to rebuild with Victor Wembanyama, I feel like that's what he's kind of doing with Mac Jones.
I think you're right on that. I think there's a problem in the NFL with bringing in these rookie QBs and expecting them to be able to run an NFL offense on their first day. One NFL training camp and then they're ready to be in the NFL.
Yeah.
Anybody who's a true football fan can see the differences between college ball and pro football. Okay, you can clearly see the differences.
Oh yeah.
Pro football is much faster. You're facing a much more elite caliber of players. In college, teams have something like 72 roster spots or something, or like over 100. I actually don't remember. I'll try and look that up quick. But college has so many roster spots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's enough to have them. You could be 4 deep in every position and still have a backup kicker and a backup punter. You know what I mean? Like college has so much space. So you're facing such a range of players. You know what I mean? You're not always facing the elite. Every team you play doesn't have elite players.
Yeah.
Or maybe you're not facing the elite players on every single play. But in the NFL, you're facing the elite on every down.
Yeah.
Because that's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Here's
here's
to go back to
something for you to think
my
about.
bad.
Here's something for you to think about. I don't know if it's so much poor management as it is. If you look at Tomlin and Belichick, they had how many years with a team that, you had some players come and go, but that same basic team dynamic was there for years and years and years, which allowed them to develop their coaching skill around that and then changed their mindset and their mentality. And over years of having that same kind of mindset, that same kind of dynamic, that same kind of team, now they find themselves trying to find themselves, because now it's almost like they have to try to become a new style of coach. And at this point in their career, do they have that ability?
But isn't that part of coaching though? Like, players have to progress. You expect your quarterback to get better, to read better, to see better, to throw better. You expect your running back to do better, to get stronger, to stay, if not get faster, to stay as fast as they can possibly be. You expect your receivers to catch better. You expect your defensive players to tackle better. You should expect your coaches to coach better. If you're a coach and your situation has changed, if you're not a coach that can adapt and change and coach the team that you have, do to the best of your ability, then you're not a good coach. Yeah, Belichick won how many championships with Brady, but if he can't come around now, if he can't turn it around, if he can't at least still stay successful, then Belichick should be taken out of the conversation for the greatest coach of all time or anything like that. He should be immediately taken out because he didn't do shit. It was Brady. Okay, if you're not a coach that can change, listen, Andy Reid's doing it right now. He left the Eagles, and now he's doing something similar to the Eagles, a fast-paced offense, because that's what he likes. But he also built that team, or at least had input on the players that he was getting. So if you're that type of coach where this is what you want to do with the team, then you can build yourself that team, but you still have to be able to make it work in the interim. You still have to be able to coach and make it work in the interim. And Andy Reid, when he came in, they weren't successful right off the bat. When they got Patrick Mahomes, they didn't go to the Super Bowl right away. It took a couple of years. But then now they're there, and now they're killing it. And now this year they lost Tyreek Hill. They lost Juju Smith-Schuster. They had to rebuild basically their wide receiving core. But they're doing it, and they're still getting wins. They're still getting it done because Andy Reid's a good coach. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is a huge part of that. But Andy Reid has done it now with 2 teams. Even if he didn't win a Super Bowl with the Eagles, he built a championship caliber team. We made it to the championship game many times. And I don't attribute necessarily all of the Eagles in success in some of those Super Bowls to Andy Reid. I'm not a huge Donovan McNabb fan. I don't think, especially after I watched him when we made it to the Super Bowl, I don't think Donovan McNabb was going to be able to get it done in those big games. I don't think he had that capability. So I don't blame everything on Andy Reid, but he's built 2 championship caliber teams. So if Belichick can't rebuild it within the same team without Tom Brady, then it was never him. It was never Belichick. It was Brady. Yeah. If he can't do it again, and I'm not saying he needs to win a Super Bowl. He doesn't need to build another dynasty. That's impossible. That's like a once in a lifetime type of thing.
Would
But
you
he's
say
gotta
the
be
same
able to
thing about Tomlin then too?
Tomlin. Well, I mean, listen. There's nothing wrong with a head coach that stays with a team for like their whole career, which Tomlin is very certainly could do. But he is in that position now. Right now, he lost Roethlisberger. He had Roethlisberger for so long. Does he have the capability to rebuild the Steelers? Does he have that capability? If he does, then that's great. You let him stay with the Steelers, and he stays with one team his whole life. Every coach in their career is going to have to face a rebuilding phase. No coach gets lucky enough to not have to rebuild a team or build it to what they want it to be. So if Belichick can't, yes, he did it the first time. Yeah, you can do it once. You can get the right players once, but if you can't do it again, then I think you're not the coach that people think you are. That's my position.
And I think that's kind of where I was going with that.
Yeah, Mike D.
I could see if both of those coaches got let go, I could see Tomlin getting another job and possibly succeeding somewhere else. I think with Belichick, it would be more. I could see him being one of those coaches if he got let go and went to another team that kind of wanted to be on a team that's established. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, no, I completely agree. I completely agree with that statement.
Sort of like what Phil Jackson did when he was done in Chicago and went to LA. You know what I'm saying? And it was funny that you said that Belichick, it wasn't all on Belichick, it was on Brady. You say the same thing about Phil. It wasn't on Phil, it was all Jordan.
Yeah. Yes. Listen, the thing about Phil Jackson, and we're getting off sports here. But
My bad.
No. I love, organic conversations. They're going to flow. So listen, the thing about Phil Jackson is that the Lakers had a good team, and they weren't able to close the deal. Not until they got Phil Jackson. So you could say that Phil Jackson was the piece that they needed. You still need a coach. It's not on no team. Is it not the coach? Like even if Belichick can't rebuild, and I say it's all Brady. Yeah, I say it's all Brady, but it was partly Belichick. He was a piece of that puzzle, of that Patriots dynasty puzzle. If you take him out, you may not have that same dynasty. You can put any other coach in there with Brady, and they don't have a dynasty. So it is still on the coach. It is still on the coach as well. Yes, it is on the coach. But what I was saying is if you can't rebuild as a coach, when you lose that player or when you leave teams, if you don't have the capability to at least rebuild, not win another championship, not win another Super Bowl, but build another championship caliber team, then I think you need to be taken out of the conversation as a GOAT. And Phil Jackson's a really good point to bring up in that, because he did leave Chicago and go to LA, and LA did already have a really good team when he came there. Now they weren't able to close the deal until he got there, but you're right. Phil Jackson, he except for he did build the Bulls. He did do that. But you're right. When he went to LA, he didn't really have to build too much of a team. Once he got there, they were winning championships. So I believe when it comes to the Lakers and Phil Jackson, that he was the piece. He was the final piece of what they needed. So yes, occasionally the coaches get lucky and they have the championship teams already in place. It doesn't happen very often in football, though. But you're right. I do believe Belichick is one of those coaches and would need that. I don't know if Phil Jackson needed it, but he got it. And I think Belichick would need it. I think he would need an established team with a veteran quarterback, a veteran running back, a veteran wide receiver. I think he would need that stuff for him to be successful again. So I don't think Belichick is going to be one of the GOAT coaches. I don't think he should be in the conversation for the GOAT coach, in my opinion.
Moving on here. I want to talk about the Dolphins a little bit. I mean, let's take a look at the fact that as of right now, they're leading in passing yards, yards per attempt, rushing yards. I think they have overall, like they're just breaking records every game at this point. They lead in yards per game.
10 touchdowns in a game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll have to look that up. I'll look that up real quick. I'm not sure if it was the record or if it tied the record for the most touchdowns in a game. But yeah, 10 touchdowns. Tua, after last year, after that concussion, I thought he was done.
Yeah. Yeah, it did seem like he was done just because of, you know, the whole controversy with the concussions and stuff. But Miami has turned it around. Like, they might be the new greatest show on turf. Like, they putting up Golden State, they putting up video game numbers. You know what I'm saying? And that's what they doing right now. If you was playing against the computer or playing online on Madden, you'd probably be putting up Dolphin numbers.
Yeah, I mean that's what that game was. Yeah, that's like when you're playing Madden, you know, at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about a team that is just firing on all cylinders right now. I mean, the Dolphins really have been able to put together some pretty miraculous things.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you, both of you, how far do you see the Dolphins going?
They're in the AFC, if I'm not mistaken. I can answer that right now. Yes, they are. They're in the AFC. By the way, nobody in the AFC has an undefeated record. The Chiefs and the Dolphins lead the AFC at 4-1. And I could see that being the championship. I could see that being the AFC championship. The Dolphins and the Chiefs.
I kind of compare the Dolphins to the Lions. They like one of those up and coming hot teams, and it's just depending on the seeding because you still got, you know, of course, Kansas City is the top team in the AFC. You still got teams like Buffalo, you know, even though they took a loss to Jacksonville, you got a team like Jacksonville. You still got the Chargers. Baltimore is still out there, so it's just whoever can peak at the right time. But I could see them maybe in AFC Championship against Kansas City. I could see that as that for the Dolphins.
So let me since we're still on the Dolphins, 3 teams have scored 10 touchdowns in a game, so they tied the record. There's 3 teams. The Dolphins obviously just did it this year. The Redskins did it in 1966. That was the last time it happened. And then the Rams did it in 1950.
That's quite a stat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And then there are 6 teams that have scored 9 touchdowns. We are not going to go over all of those. But yeah, so I mean that's a stat to have. That's a stat to have. I mean, Tua, what? I mean, he didn't actually get to 10 touchdowns because then they brought their backup in and he ended up getting one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, when you listen, when you're having a game where you're like, hey, who else wants a touchdown? Who needs a touchdown? All right, get him. He's on the bench. Like, get him in the game. Get him a touchdown.
They probably could have put the third string in for a snap or two, and he probably could have got the touchdown.
Yeah, I mean,
they could have went and got the dude sweeping the locker room out.
Yeah,
and got him on the field and be like, "You want to get a touchdown? Come on, let's do this."
Yeah,
right.
I mean, yeah, and I'm really surprised because I thought Tua. I didn't even think Tua would be back. I thought he'd be done after last year's concussion, man.
I think the concussion woke him up.
I don't think that kind of concussion wakes anybody up.
I think when he came back from that after all the
he's got a special helmet
extra training and stuff he did.
Yeah, and he does have a special helmet now too. So I mean, he's probably feeling pretty. I mean, at this point, I hope he's got his confidence back. Yeah. I mean, come on.
Yeah. But he had done a lot of mental training and stuff after the concussion protocol was over. He continued that mental training. Yeah. I think that is what the difference is between last year and this year.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Jets. Unless one of you two want to take us somewhere else. Aaron Rodgers gets injured right at the beginning of the season. They're back to relying on what's his name that I'm totally drawing up. Zach Wilson, I think it is.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Aaron Rodgers, Achilles injury in the first game of the season, out for the season. Is that his career? Is that it? Yeah.
I think Aaron Rodgers should have been done a couple of seasons ago at this point.
Mike D?
Yeah. He's trying to make a comeback. He's actually trying to come back if they make the playoffs or whatever. But wow. I mean, it's unfortunate. But I feel sorry for Zach Wilson because it's like he didn't know Aaron Rodgers was going to get injured. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like, nah, he got to come in and step in as a backup.
And a season, listen, this season, not to cut you off, Mike D, but I think this season, being able to study under Aaron Rodgers would have been amazing for Zach Wilson. I think that would have been, I think that's exactly what he needed for the team not to be on his shoulders. He could have just sat back, watched Aaron Rodgers play, and I think that would have been unbelievable for him. I think after one season, even if Aaron Rodgers wouldn't have stayed with the Jets beyond the season, I think one season of Zach Wilson watching Aaron Rodgers run this team, and I think if you have to rely on Zach Wilson next year, I think he takes the reins and he's a good quarterback. This year again, and this is why I hate these teams that bring in these rookie quarterbacks and put them into these teams who aren't ready. And now again, he's in with a team he didn't know he was going to. When you're Aaron Rodgers backup, you don't think you're going to be playing. I mean, yes, as a backup, you should always be ready. But when you got Aaron Rodgers, you don't think you're coming back in. And now in the first game, he's already coming back in, and the team's already relying on him again. So I hope that my hope is that Aaron Rodgers does come back, and he can learn under Aaron Rodgers for a season, because I do think it would be really good for him to learn under Aaron Rodgers. But if they're talking about him coming back in the playoffs, maybe, but that's Sutton. That's Sutton.
But I still think he could still learn under Aaron Rodgers while he's injured. I mean, of course, Zach Wilson will probably learn more watching him play. But if Aaron Rodgers can come to the facility and give him a little pointers, or you shoot him a text message or two, he could still do that. I just think the criticism that he's been getting, that Zach Wilson has been getting from the media, is kind of unfair, because it's like, okay, Aaron Rodgers got injured. Now you want to step in and be this all-pro quarterback out of nowhere. And it's like, no, he didn't expect to play like that this year. He expect, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He probably expected to play when they winning 70-5 or 70-10 or something like that. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I think it's unfair on what ESPN and all these other networks have been doing to him, because he didn't expect that. He wasn't named the starter at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I agree that the media is hardest on the quarterbacks. I mean, they're hard on anybody. As soon as you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, you're going to be criticized. That's part of being in the NFL too. And no, I don't think he deserves it. I think he's doing okay. They're 2-3. They're hanging in there. They're not out of it. Their division is just in the toilet. Except for the Dolphins. I mean, they're in the same division as the Dolphins, but and the Bills. So they do face a tough road. The Patriots are 1-4. The Jets are 2-3, and then the Bills are 3-2. So they're hanging in there with the Bills. 2-3 is not terrible at this point in the season. You know what I mean? You can still turn it around. The season is a long time. It's a long season.
Yeah. I think once we get into like week 8, between like week 8 and week 10, I think you'll kind of know who the contenders are. You still gonna have those ones that's scrambling for a wild card spot, but between week 8 and week 10, I think we'll know who are the contenders. We kind of know who they are now, but you'll kind of get a good feel of who's going to be.
No, but you're right. Yeah, the season, the team always turns it on. At the end of the season, there's always a team or two that that's in the middle of the pack that comes on strong at the end and tries to make a run. So yeah.
Who out of all the teams that's not struggling, but kind of just like up and down right now, what team do y'all see that could make?
Honestly, I could see. I was just looking at that right now. And the Packers are 2-2, and Jordan Love has been killing it. So I could really see the Packers trying to make a run and end up with a good record at the end of the season. You know what I mean? They could be, 9 and what is it? Jeez, like I think it'd be 10-6 or 9-7 or something like that. I think by the end of the season too. So I would probably say the Packers on the NFC side.
The team I'm looking at, and maybe this is a little early, but I kind of like the Atlanta Falcons. Desmond Ridder is not a bad quarterback. He just it seemed like his offensive line is kind of sketchy. And for me, the NFC South is not really a team that's like, they don't have any teams that like no really solid contenders. So I could see a team like the Falcons probably sneaking in the playoffs.
You know what? I agree with that because I feel like the Falcons are kind of being underestimated right now.
Yeah.
You know, they seem to be. There's not a whole lot of talk about them. They kind of seem to be flying under the radar a little bit. I could see them coming out later in the season and definitely being a real contender.
I would on the AFC side, my sleeper team, I guess you would want to say, they're leading their division right now, but they're only 3-2. The Jaguars. I think the Jaguars are going to be a contender in the AFC. I can see them being in the championship as well. I'm a Doug Peterson fan, and I think the Jaguars are gonna with Lawrence, or he's gonna Trevor Lawrence. I think they got something. I think Doug Peterson's got something in Jacksonville, and I think they're gonna be. If I don't know how far they'll make it this year, but I think in the coming years, Jacksonville is going to be one of the teams that we're talking about to be Super Bowl contenders.
And real quick, another team that is looking pretty good. The Houston Texans. I think what's their record? 2-3 or 2-2?
2-2. They're 2-3. They're in the same division as the Jags with the Colts and the Titans.
Yeah,
I can see the Texans. I can see the Texans maybe making a run. They don't have a terrible team, but I think they're missing something too. I think they could maybe be there, but I don't think they're going to make it deep into the playoffs. I think the Texans are missing something yet.
And that's one of those divisions that don't have a solid contender anybody could get in there.
All right, what do you guys think? Let's talk about who's in trouble. Let's talk about teams in trouble. Who do you think is in trouble across the NFL, AFC or NFC? We can do a pick from each side. I'll go first. I'm going to pick the Panthers on the NFC side. They're 0-5. They're looking terrible, and I think that they could run the risk of going 0-16 this year. And I think that they are in real organizational trouble, not just team trouble. I think there's a problem in Carolina right now.
I'm go ahead and say for the NFC, I'm gonna have to go with the Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys.
I'm gonna have to go with the Cowboys as the team because they
look so good.
They got exposed yesterday.
My goodness, they look so good at the beginning of the season, and that game this weekend. Oh my goodness, it was so terrible. I was like, who is this? This is not the team that's just been spanking everybody.
Yeah.
So they've been in trouble though for seasons. As long as Jerry Jones is in the wheelhouse, they're in trouble.
And one more for the AFC, I'm gonna go with the Cincinnati Bengals.
They are. Yeah. Oh.
As talented as they are, they should not be struggling the way they are. But I think the Higgins Jamar Chase and Burrow have been having some issues or whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Hopefully they can turn it around and get into the playoffs.
Oh man, the Bengals are in trouble. And from the AFC side, I would definitely pick. I would have to go with two, honestly, because I think the Browns are in trouble.
Yeah.
And I think the Broncos are in real big trouble.
Oh yeah.
So I think the Broncos are Sean Payton, is he another one of those coaches that is not going to be able to rebuild because the Broncos look just terrible. They just look awful.
Sean Payton reminds me of Doc Rivers in the NBA. He got that one championship, and that's what everybody is going off of with Sean Payton. It's that one championship that he got in New Orleans, and he hasn't done anything since then. And that's why I kind of feel that way with Tomlin too. He kind of reminds me of Doc Rivers. Tomlin got two. But still in the process, it's just like.
But see, Tomlin at least is keeping the Steelers. They usually are, even if they don't make the playoffs, they usually have a winning record. But the Broncos 1-4 with Russell Wilson, and we just lost Mike. Oh no, there he is. Mizpah, go ahead. What are your picks?
I think the Chargers are in serious trouble.
The Chargers.
Yeah, they got beat by the Steelers, and it was an ugly game. That was an ugly game. Yeah. they couldn't put together a set of downs to save their lives. Like it was just bad.
Yeah.
And the Steelers were not playing the greatest either, which makes it even worse. And it just, I think it kind of showed that there is definitely an issue with the Chargers, and they are definitely not gelling. They are not firing on all 8 cylinders. I don't even know if their engine is started at this moment.
Yeah.
Like it was bad. And they've been struggling to run the ball. They've been struggling to defend. They've just been struggling all the way around. And I think if they don't do something to get that together, they're going to be in some serious trouble next year.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Of course, I think the Cowboys are in trouble if they don't turn it around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Cowboys are.
Because I know the Eagles are in first place in the NFC East. The Commanders are another one of those teams that's kind of like up and down. You know what I'm saying? You don't expect them to really do much, but if they get hot, they could be one of them teams that could be second place in that division and possibly still a wild card spot.
Yeah, I think now that they got rid of, I don't know if you guys know this, but Washington is not owned by Dan Snyder anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sold the team. That was part of the whole team renaming the team from the Redskins to the Commanders. But that was so they don't have Dan Snyder anymore. So I think you give them a couple more seasons. I mean, new owner, you're gonna have some kinks to work out. So I think you give them another 2 or 3 seasons, and I think Washington can maybe turn it around and perhaps become contenders again, or at least be near the top. Now that they don't have Dan Snyder, because I think Dan Snyder was one of those owner problems. So now that they got rid of Dan Snyder, Washington might be able to start turning it around.
Yeah, I agree. Because they got a pretty nice team. The guys that they have on their team are not bad. I know they still got Chase Young, the receiver McLaurin. They got some good pieces. They just need a coach, and like you said, with all the stuff they were going through.
Yeah, Ron Rivera. Yeah, it's not going to happen with Ron Rivera.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to happen with Ron Rivera.
Yeah,
we're going to have to get rid of Ron, or you get the Reds. The Commanders are going to have to get rid of Ron Rivera.
So I'm going to let you guys finish that out. I'm going to step out here on you. I have a 8 o'clock commitment that I got to follow up on. So,
all right, well, go take care of the family, and Mizpah, we'll see you. We'll see you later. Thanks for joining us.
It's been fun, and I look forward to doing more of these.
Yeah,
all right, nice meeting you.
Peace.
Yeah, and we're probably going to get ready to close out here, Mike D, in just a moment anyway.
Okay.
We try not to run too much longer than an hour.
Yeah.
So, that was really, I was actually going to be getting ready to close out right after we kind of wrapped up that conversation there, unless you had something else you wanted another team you wanted to talk about, or anything else you wanted. We want to do more of these episodes. So, we wouldn't mind doing them every 2 or 3 weeks, even through the season. So, if you want to join us for, more episodes, then that would be fine. We like to try and do a couple every football year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Anything involving football, even if y'all do a little basketball, just give me a holler and I'll step on the scene.
I'd love to do some basketball, but I'm not I don't get to watch it as regularly, and I don't know basketball like I know, football and some of the other sports. But I'd love to be able to get into some basketball episodes. But
okay.
What do you think? I think the Giants are always, they have something fundamentally wrong with their organization as well, I think.
Yeah.
I think the Bears are definitely also in some trouble. Really anybody at the bottom right now who's really playing poorly, needs to look at what's going on, because there are some teams that I just didn't anticipate being on the bottom. The Panthers 0-5. I didn't expect to see that. The Bears 1-4. The Vikings 1-4.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't expect to see some of these teams. The Patriots 1-4.
Right.
I mean, the Broncos 1-4. Some of these teams you expected to be at least contenders or fighting. You didn't expect them to be starting off, the first quarter of the season at the bottom.
Yeah. Hey, and I'm so surprised with the Broncos, because I thought that Russell Wilson would make them competitive, and it's just been a 360 turn, and it's just like, I give it maybe another year, he'll be out of there, and I give it maybe another 2 years, Sean Payton to be out of there. That's not gonna work.
Yeah, no, I don't think Sean Payton is where it's going to be at either. Yeah, again, he's one of those coaches. I don't know. Just everything he did after they won the championship in New Orleans, he wasn't able to rebuild and get them back there. So, I don't really have much confidence that he's going to be able to get them back there.
Yeah. And even during that time after they won the Super Bowl, the guy that was keeping them relevant was Drew Brees. Drew Brees, Michael Thomas, Kamara.
Yeah, the talent, yeah. And how did he not get back there with those guys? That's what I mean. Like he had his Super Bowl team for more than a season. You know what I mean? Like he had the most of his key players for more than one season, and he wasn't able to get them back there. So yeah, I don't know. I think Sean Payton is one of those coaches who is hiding behind a good team. Yeah. Yes, he was still part of the team. Yes, he was probably the right coach at the right time. But that was only 1 year. They weren't able to repeat it. He didn't build no dynasty like Belichick did. Belichick was a clear piece of a puzzle that created a dynasty. Yeah. Sean Payton won him 1 Super Bowl, but then wasn't able to do anything else after that. So,
yeah. And I remember that 1 year in the playoffs. I think they had got a pass interference that wasn't called on them or something like that. That kind of shifted the momentum. Wasn't it a playoff game against the Rams?
Yeah.
Yeah. But other than that, like you said, and I said it too, like Sean Payton has not been able to get them back to the Super Bowl. So it's just like this job that he got in Denver is pretty much he got that because he's still the resume that he did in New Orleans. But I mean, he only got 1 Super Bowl, and he had a couple of winning seasons, but I mean, didn't really amount to nothing, to much.
Yeah. Yeah, they only got 1 there, didn't they, during that time? I said that right? Just 1 championship. Yeah, that's what I thought. But, I mean, in the today's NFL, to get even 1 is still, a lot of people don't even get the 1 ring. So at least he got the 1 ring. Like I said, he worked for that, but it was just 1 season. He didn't take him, he didn't really get him back in Super Bowl contendership after that. I mean, they were up there, but, they didn't win again. And, like I said, Belichick, had multiple championships over a couple of years, but Sean Payton didn't do that. So I don't think it's the same classification. And now with what's happening in Denver, I think it compounds the problem.
Yeah.
When it comes to Sean Payton, at least. I mean, you were talking about the pressure on the quarterbacks. You got to be successful or you immediately start facing criticism. I think coaches face the same kind, though. I think it's the same way. I think as soon as you're not winning, you're facing criticism as the coach as well. And I think sometimes with coaches, certain coaches, I think it's warranted. Like Chip Kelly, I think is a terrible coach in NFL. He was obviously a great coach in college. He did not make the transition to the NFL. You can't do what you do in the college in today's NFL. There's reasons for that. Mm-hmm. And there's other coaches that I don't think that are very good, but overall, I mean, if you can get that championship, that's, that gives you a championship.
Yeah. I mean, because there's been a lot of college coaches that were terrible in the NFL, like Steve Spurrier. Oh my God, like he was the man in college, and then when he tried to make that transition to the NFL and then went to Washington, oh no, he was out of the league so quick. I hate when some college coaches try to come to the pros and think that what they did in college is gonna switch over to the pros. Like it doesn't happen for a lot of college coaches.
No, you don't have 5 running backs on your team. and you don't have, their top 3 running backs aren't faster than the entire defense. In fact, chances are the defense is faster than whoever you got at running back. So you can't. There's a reason that it's a passing. The NFL has evolved. In the '90s, it was more rushing. There was more rushing in the '90s. A little less passing. And then the game started to change. Now, today, we definitely face a more passing league, but the run isn't as unimportant as it was even a couple of years ago. I think the NFL kind of goes through different phases and stuff. And a couple, even 5 or 6, 7 years ago, running wasn't quite as important. It was a passing game. You needed to have a quarterback, you needed to have receivers. It was a passing league. Yeah. Now, coaches are figuring out how to bring the run game back. And the teams that don't have an effective run game are the ones suffering again. You need to have both equally. You need to have a good run game and a good passing game. They complement each other. Yep. So, the stuff that works in college isn't going to work in the pros because you need to have a balanced offense. You need to be able to run the ball. You need to be able to pass the ball effectively, both effectively. Look at the teams that are, even the Eagles. Yeah, Jalen Hurts is a crazy quarterback. Yeah, he's got 2 amazing wide receivers that can do some crazy stuff, and they put up big numbers. But they still have running backs. They still hand the ball off. They still have an effective run game. Mm-hmm. So, in today's NFL, the successful teams are doing both.
Yep, I totally agree.
Well, I think we pretty much talked about all we need to talk about for this episode. We're going to try and do this again in 2 or 3 weeks. It's week 5 right now, we just completed week 5. It's Monday. Monday Night Football is going to be coming on in just a short time. Of course, you're not watching this live, so when you're watching this, Monday Night Football is not on. So don't go turn it on. But we'll probably do it again, maybe probably after week 8 or around between week 8 and week 10. We'll probably try and look to get another episode in on football, and then we'll probably do another one before the closing of the season. And then, if we can, we'll do one, before the Super Bowl. So that's probably what we're going to do for football episodes. So stay tuned to Mayhem. We'll be doing a couple throughout the rest of the season. And we're going to be doing at least 2 more racing episodes here for the rest of the year. The racing season is going to be coming to a close, but we'll still be doing 1 or 2 more episodes. Follow Mike D. Mike D, give your shout outs of your own stuff so I don't have to, let you do your own shout outs.
All right. Just want to go ahead and let everybody know. Go to the Wrestling 313 channel on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Check out all the videos, all the interviews that I had. I got one with JD. I got other interviews with other podcasters. I got pro wrestlers on the show, trying to get more pro wrestlers on the show. So just follow me, subscribe on YouTube, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. That's now known as X. And go to wrestlingfromthe313shop.com. Go get you a t-shirt. It's starting to get cold. Get you a hoodie. Just put some phone cases on the site, coffee mugs. So we just trying to make things happen, man. That's all.
Yep, absolutely. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Tell them Mayhem Media sent you. And now Mike D hasn't been podcasting quite as long as I have. I'm closing in on 200 episodes between both my shows. So Mike D's still working on getting all of his stuff down. Now, let me show, not to show him up. I'm not doing this to show him up. I'm just doing this because he's only got a couple of handful of episodes. I'm going to be closing in on 200. This is the difference when you have your stuff memorized. It takes a while. It does take a while, but then once you got it memorized, it's much quicker. So make sure you go check out Mayhem Media on Facebook, facebook.com/Mayhem Media Inc. We're on Rumble. All you have to do is search Mayhem Media on Rumble. We don't have our unique web address. Please hit the subscribe button. As soon as we reach that threshold for the subscribers, we will get our own unique name on Rumble as well. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/@Mayhem Media Inc. And make sure you visit our storefront, bonfire.com/store/JDEDESIGNz. That's with a Z at the end of it. And pick yourself up some new Mayhem Media apparel. We also have hoodies, sweatshirts, t-shirts. We just put up coffee mugs ourselves as well. The JDEDESIGNz storefront has been expanding, and we're going to be adding more over the next couple of weeks. So please check back, pick some up, and support the podcast, the show. We can't do it without you. Mike D can't do it without you. That's what we need. We need people, we need subscribers. We need people who are willing to share our content. Leave us a comment. We'll talk about it on a future episode. And please hit that share button across all platforms. Hit the subscribe button across all platforms. The Boiling Point Podcast, our sister show, that's for politics, faith, religion. Make sure you check them out as well. They are on Facebook, YouTube, Rumble, and they also have their own bonfire storefront. For Mike D, wrestling from the 313, I am your host, and Mizpah, who is not here. He had to bounce on us. That's okay.
Yeah, shout out to Mizpah.
Yeah, we'll get him back on. He'll be on the next episode for sure as well again, so he'll be back. I am your host, JD. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, nope, we're not going to close out quite yet because one last thing I forgot. Can't forget this. I did put the ticker up, but I did forget. Marcus Fredrickson. Marcus Fredrickson does all the music here for Mayhem Media and our sister show, the Boiling Point Podcast. Make sure you check him out. He's on ReverbNation.com/Marcus Fredrickson. Share out his music. Share out your favorite song. Leave him a comment. We miss you, Marcus, and we're going to carry on your legacy and continue to use your music on Mayhem and the Boiling Point Podcast for as long as we exist. So Marcus Fredrickson does the music. He plays us in and out of every single episode. Make sure you check out his music.
Cool.
Now, for Mike D, wrestling from the 313, my executive producer, Mizpah, I am your host, JD, and that's the end.
All right, peace.